Hello and welcome to Section 1, Episode 17 of the LUFC Fan Zone podcast. I'm Sam Isles.
And I'm Jack Ellis.
And each episode we'll be talking to an ex-Leeds United player or manager about their time at the club.
All of our episodes can be found on our LUFC Fan Zone YouTube channel, as well as Spotify and Apple Podcast. And last episode, we were with former Leeds United Managing Director David Haig, who spoke to us about bringing in GFH to Leeds United and the Iranian government using money to purchase the club, as well as attempting to purchase Leeds from GFH with a consortium of buyers, including Massimo Cellino, before the Italian purchased the club for himself.
However, today we're back speaking with a former Leeds United player, and one who played at the club during the Cellino era, which David Haig was involved with. After joining Leeds in 2014 from Serie B side Catania for a reported £1.6 million, he was just one of 11 Italian-based players who joined the club that season, and reportedly the most expensive. After making just under 60 league appearances in his 3 years at Ellen Road, he scored some memorable goals, including a free kick away at Bournemouth in a 3-1 win. However, he is also someone who generates a large amount of negativity within the fan base, mainly because of his off-the-field antics, with just one example coming in 2015 when he was a member of the infamous Sick Note 6 away at Charlton Athletic. That's right. This week, we're with former Leeds United defender Giuseppe Bellusci, as well as Adriano from Monza, who's going to act as the translator today. Thank you so much for joining us both.
Hi everyone.
Ciao, hi.
Just to make it clear to everyone who's listening to this show, unfortunately, Giuseppe's English isn't the best, so he'll be answering most of the questions in Italian today, and then Adriano will translate his answers into English, just of those who can speak Italian. But yeah, just to start off with, Giuseppe, it's been 3 years since you left Leeds now. And from then on, in 2017, you've played all of your football in Italy. First when you joined Palmero, who you joined straight from Leeds, and you're now at Monza in Serie B. How are you finding your time there?
Sto benissimo. Sono felicissimo di essere al Monza. Ho fatto una bella parentesi anche a Palermo, che purtroppo per questioni societarie non abbiamo rispettato gli obiettivi, ma adesso ho in testa solo il Monza e il nuovo obiettivo predisposto dalla società.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here in Monza, and obviously even at Palermo I had a really great time. Unfortunately, we weren't able to achieve our goals due to some situations linked to the club that happened. But obviously, I'm now all I think about is Monza. I'm really focused, and I really want to achieve some great objectives with this team.
So far in your career, you've had 6 different clubs, and 5 of them have been in Italy. But you made the move out of your homeland for the only time in 2014 to join Leeds. When did you first hear about the possibility of moving to England and Leeds United? And how did you feel about leaving Italy? Because it was something that you had never done before.
Ero entusiasta perché prima di andare a Leeds avevo letto la storia del club e ero gratificato e orgoglioso di entrare a far parte di un club così importante in Inghilterra. Ho deciso di cambiare io nazione, aria, dopo la retrocessione con il Catania. Dopo i 5 anni fatti a Catania si era chiuso un ciclo e volevo prendermi una pausa dall'Italia e provare un calcio diverso. È arrivata la chiamata del Leeds e non ho aspettato un attimo nell'accettare.
No, obviously when I heard of Leeds call, I was really enthusiastic and happy. Obviously before going, I read all the history of the club, and I knew that the club was like one of the most historical ones in the UK. And I was really happy because I was coming from 5 years playing for Catania, but after the relegation with Catania, I just had the feeling, I knew that the journey there was over. So I felt I needed some new motivations, and therefore I was very happy to accept Leeds. When I received the offer, I didn't hesitate.
You said that you knew the history about Leeds before you came, but what did you actually know about Leeds United before you came to England?
Ma avevo visto anche dei filmati su YouTube dove avevo notato subito la piazza molto calda, molto attaccata alla maglia, sempre presenti i tifosi, e questa è una cosa che a me piace moltissimo. Infatti ho fatto quasi sempre piazze del sud, dove ci sono pressioni, dove c'è molta gente attaccata ai colori. E poi erano passati diversi campioni, avevano fatto tantissimi anni in Premier, avevano lottato anche per il titolo, e una storia importante, e quindi dopo aver visto tutte queste cose che si conciliavano con il mio carattere e con la mia ambizione, ho deciso di accettare.
So one of the things that caught the most my attention was the fans there, because by looking at some videos as well, I saw that the fans were really attached to the club, like very, very passionate. And I think that matches my character as well, because all my career I mainly played in Italian clubs from the south of Italy, because there is the fans, they show passion at like a maximum level, and so that really matched my character. So that's what really caught my attention, as well as obviously the amount of great players that played for Leeds, and also because Leeds played many years in the Premier League as well.
And your transfer to Leeds was confirmed on the 12th of August 2014, just a few months after Massimo Cellino had purchased the club. And within his first year at the club, you were one of many Italian-based players to join Leeds United. What sort of impact did Cellino have on the transfer, and were you aware of his plans to bring in many Italian players to Leeds?
Con l'opzione di riscatto. Poi dopo, conoscendomi come persona e poi vedendomi giocare, perché non avevo mai avuto il piacere di giocare per Cellino, una volta conosciuto ho voluto subito fare il riscatto e non aspettando il fine anno, fine stagione. E poi credo che l'acquisto di un paio, perché non è che abbia rifondato la squadra con tutti italiani, un paio di giocatori, 5-6 giocatori che avevano giocato in Italia, credo che è più che legittimo da parte di un presidente che aveva fatto tantissimi anni nel calcio italiano e quindi conosceva parecchi giocatori italiani. Credo che il presidente Cellino meritava un po' più di tempo, non gli è stato dato, e per me è andato un po' in difficoltà per tutte queste vicende, però ero sicuro e sono sicuro che qualora avesse avuto più tempo ci saremmo tolti belle soddisfazioni.
So originally my transfer to Leeds was on loan with option to buy at the end of the season, but when Cellino saw how I was as a player, but most importantly as a man, he decided immediately to buy me instead of waiting for the end of the season. And obviously he brought a few players from the Italian league, but that's just it's quite understandable. It's because obviously he came from that league, so he knew the players very well because he saw them like many times. And but Cellino was a very good owner, good president. He probably deserved more time, because probably if he would have had more time, he could have achieved very great things with Leeds.
And when you moved to England, how did you find the lifestyle of being a professional in the first few months of your time at Leeds? Because it was well known that when you and the other Italian players moved to England, some of the players used to smoke. However, in England, that wasn't something what players usually did, but obviously it could be accepted in Italian football.
Quindi quando ti sei trasferito in Inghilterra, come hai visto lo stile di vita in Inghilterra? Perché molta gente vedeva i giocatori italiani che erano arrivati, che per esempio fumavano, e questo è accettato in Italia?
C'è una cultura diversa. Posso dire che magari alcuni giocatori italiani possono fumare qualche sigaretta, ma poi nella cultura inglese ci sono giocatori che bevono 10 birre dopo allenamento. Ognuno ha le sue culture e i suoi momenti di pausa dal calcio.
No, it's just part of the culture. Like there could be some Italian players that maybe smoke a cigarette, after training, and maybe there are some English players that drink a few beers after the training. So it's just a part of the culture. Everyone has a different way of just maybe relaxing, and releasing stress. And well, here in Italy, it's smoking a cigarette every now and then is part of it.
Your first head coach at Leeds, the first of quite a few during your time at Ellen Road, was David Hockaday, someone who was extremely unknown to Leeds fans because of his lack of experience as a head coach. However, how did you find him as a head coach? And do you think it was the correct appointment of Massimo Cellino to have as his first manager, given that he didn't have that experience?
No, difficile commentare un allenatore che credo non abbia mai fatto il professionismo. Però il presidente ogni tanto fa queste scommesse, a volte le vince e a volte le perde. Credo che con Hockaday la scelta e la scommessa l'abbia persa.
So it was actually quite difficult to judge, because obviously he didn't really have any professional experience so far. But President Cellino sometimes was used to this kind of bets. So like betting on someone, hoping that he will turn out to be maybe a great coach or great player. And unfortunately, that time, it wasn't a great bet.
Just over a week after your arrival in England, you made your debut for Leeds, starting in the trip to Watford in the 4th Championship game of the season. What can you remember about your Leeds debut? Because you didn't have the greatest of starts to your time at Leeds.
Però stiamo facendo, credo, una buona gara contro una squadra forte. Non è stato, tra virgolette, facile per me, anche se le sfide e le cose difficili mi appartengono e mi piacciono e mi stimolano. È iniziata, tra virgolette, in salita, però poi credo che per i tifosi onesti io abbia dato un contributo importante durante la stagione, nonostante le difficoltà incontrate.
Yeah, so if I remember well, I was sent off that game in my debut, but I think that the team that day played a really good game. And yeah, obviously the start wasn't maybe one of the easiest ones. It was quite challenging, but I like challenges. And I think at the end of the day, I think that in my time at Leeds, I did well, because I always gave everything 100% for the club, for the fans. So I think that the fans can know that I've done well there.
And because of that red card, it meant that by the time you were allowed to play again for Leeds after your suspension, Leeds already had their second head coach of the season, this time Darko Milanic. And although it might have been clear that some of the head coaches during that era probably weren't suitable for both Leeds United and Championship, as a player, how hard was it to have constant head coaches being replaced after just a couple of months and then get sacked, rather than someone who was there for a long period of time?
Io onestamente credo che Darko era un ottimo allenatore, molto preparato, e aveva bisogno di tempo per cercare di amalgamare la squadra e per far emergere il suo gioco. Nelle sue 5 partite, credo che lui abbia fatto 5 partite, 3 pareggi, 2 sconfitte, se non ricordo male. Avremmo meritato di fare molti più punti. Siamo stati in quella parentesi di 5 partite molto sfortunati, e poi il presidente ha deciso di cambiare, ma io non ero favorevole a quella scelta e sono rimasto molto dispiaciuto, perché credo che Darko sia un ottimo allenatore.
Well, obviously changing many coaches throughout the season is never a good idea, because obviously, like, you can't express a way of playing. But personally, I think that Darko was a really, really good coach. He had good ideas, and he just needed more time. Because if I remember well, he just coached 5 Leeds games where he got 3 draws and 2 losses. And then obviously after the 5th match, President Cellino decided to sack him. But I didn't agree with that choice, and I actually felt sad because I really admire Darko. I think he's a really good coach.
And just staying on the topic of head coaches, to Leeds fans, the head coach was what would previously be known as a manager. However, when Cellino arrived, he changed it. How much of a relationship did you have with the head coach? Because we spoke to Tommasio Bianchi on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he said that instead of going to the head coach, if players had a problem, some of the players would go straight to the president, Massimo Cellino.
Perché io personalmente se ho avuto problemi ho cercato di risolverli da soli. Se avevo problemi con l'allenatore cercavo di parlare con l'allenatore, se avevo dei problemi con compagni di squadra parlavo con i compagni di squadra, se avevo problemi con il presidente parlavo con il presidente. In base a chi avevo il problema andavo a bussare e cercare di risolverlo. E se avevo problemi familiari sicuramente non li porto nel calcio. Quindi questa è una domanda che a me non tocca, perché io diverso tempo ho parlato con gli allenatori che c'erano lì per cercare di dare una mano. A volte sono stato compreso, a volte no. Credo però che per Cellino la prima avventura in Inghilterra credo che sia comprensibile quando uno spende soldi di tasca propria e mette amore e passione e denaro. È normale che voglia avere il controllo della situazione, soprattutto quando sei in una nuova nazione, in una nuova cultura, in un calcio nuovo che non hai mai fatto, cosa che credo non è stata capita. Poi magari nella mia testa credo che con il passare del tempo e conoscendo le persone giuste magari si sarebbe anche potuto affidare ed entrare pienamente nella cultura inglese.
Well, personally, I don't know about that because if I had a problem with, for example, a player, I used to speak with that player. If I had a problem with the coach, I used to speak to the coach. If I had a problem with Cellino, I used to speak with the Cellino. So I always try to solve the problem with the person that I had the problem with. So I actually don't know about that. And obviously, when a new owner comes and like puts a lot of his own money in the team, has great ambitions and tries obviously to achieve great results with that team, obviously that owner wants to have some sort of control on the team, and that is probably why obviously President Cellino always wanted to be informed on many things related to the club. And maybe sometimes he just didn't have the right people around him, which maybe that's also one of the factors that didn't let him achieve what he wanted at Leeds.
And after your suspension, you returned to the starting 11, and in September you scored your first goal for Leeds United, a 25-yard free kick away at league leaders Bournemouth in a 3-1 win. What can you remember about that free kick? And what made you take it? Because you hadn't taken a free kick before in previous matches for Leeds.
Credo che in quel momento era un match delicato, eravamo nei minuti finali e stavamo soffrendo perché il Bournemouth era una squadra veramente forte e credo che abbia vinto il campionato poi. E quindi mi sono assunto la responsabilità e ho calciato ed è andata bene. Forse ne ho fatti pochi in carriera, ma credo che quello sia stato il gol più bello e sicuramente l'emozione più forte che ho dato ai tifosi del Leeds, e credo che nei miei due anni di gioco nel Leeds credo che il gol su punizione e la galoppata box to box con la traversa sul chip, come lo chiamano loro, sullo scalino, che poi ha portato al gol di Antenucci, credo che siano le due cose più belle che ho fatto lì.
Yes, obviously it was a very crucial part of the match because it was around in the final minutes of the game, and so I decided to take the free kick because I just felt like it. And obviously it went well, and I didn't score many goals in my career, but of the goals I scored, probably that is the most beautiful one I scored. And also I think I gave really really big emotions to the fans as well. It's probably the time where I gave the biggest emotions to Leeds fans during my time there. And also another part I remember is the box-to-box run I made, where then I chipped the ball and I hit the crossbar, and then Antenucci was able to score.
And at the end of the season, Rudolph Austin's strike against Watford won Leeds' goal of the season. But do you think yours was better?
Se anche loro vedono, forse questa è la prima intervista che rilascio sul Leeds e soprattutto a giornalisti inglesi. Nei miei 2 anni non ho mai fatto un'intervista. Non mi interessa apparire sui riflettori o ricevere premi. Io do il massimo per i miei compagni e per stare bene con il mio lavoro e per stare bene con me stesso. Se è stato deciso che Austin avesse fatto il gol più bello, è giusto che abbia preso il premio.
No, I don't think so. Like if they chose that Austin's goal was the best one, it's right that he gets the this title. Obviously, I'm not a guy that wants to appear a lot in the media, and also if you notice, this is the first interview I actually give to the English let's say press or to English social medias after my time at Leeds. It's because I always I prefer to focus on the game in order to give always 100% for the team, for my teammates, and for the club.
And although Leeds won at Bournemouth with the help of your free kick, Darko Milanic replaced Neil Redfern as head coach. And during that time, like you previously said, he didn't win a match as Leeds head coach, and the results that followed weren't the best. And in December, Leeds United lost away to Derby County 2-0, which left Leeds 20th in the Championship table. At that time, or during any point in that season, did you ever fear that Leeds might be relegated into League One?
No, mai avuto il timore della retrocessione, ma sempre avuto la convinzione che quella squadra non potesse vincere il campionato. Forse si erano create false ambizioni per lottare per la vittoria del campionato. Credo che nei 2 anni che sono stato a Leeds, per la squadra che eravamo e per le difficoltà ambientali e cambi di allenatori che ci sono stati, credo che la classifica abbia rispecchiato il nostro valore. Tutti e 2 gli anni siamo arrivati a metà classifica e credo che sia giusto così.
No, I actually never feared to get relegated in the League One, but at the same time, I never had the feeling that we could be a team that could be promoted. Mainly because in the 2 years that I've been at Leeds, obviously there have been many difficulties, starting from the frequent change of coaches. And so in the 2 years that I've been at Leeds, we always finished in mid-table, which I think that at the end of the day reflects what we could have done. So I think we actually achieved what we could have done, achieved.
And before you came to Leeds, like you said, you were with Catania, who had just been relegated to Serie B, which is obviously the Italian second division. And when you joined Leeds, they're obviously in the Championship, which is the English second division. But how do you think the 2 leagues compared? And did you feel that the Championship might have been of a similar quality to the Serie B?
Credo che ci sia molto più ritmo e ci sia più bravura individuale e più forza individuale nel singolo giocatore. La differenza notevole che c'è tra l'Inghilterra e l'Italia è dal punto di vista tattico, dove in Italia magari abbiamo meno qualità individuali ma più qualità collettive, e discorso inverso in Inghilterra.
So yeah, obviously in England I found a higher rhythm of the game, and also more individual quality and strength. The big difference probably between Italy and England is the tactical aspect. So here in Italy, we give much more importance to tactics, and that the result is that maybe the collective is stronger than in England. but obviously in England I found more individual quality and strength.
How did yourself and the new arrivals settle into Leeds in the dressing room? Because obviously now you're struggling to communicate in English, but did that cause any divide within the changing room between the English players and the Italian players?
Poi caratterialmente sono molto aperto, quindi provavo a parlare con tutti, ma la barriera linguistica mi limitava. È un aspetto, credo, molto importante nella conoscenza tra giocatori, perché soprattutto il primo anno i giocatori non hanno avuto la fortuna di conoscermi fuori dal campo e conoscermi come persona, mi hanno conosciuto come giocatore, solo come giocatore, ed è una pecca perché so benissimo che conoscendomi solo da giocatore sono un giocatore, tra virgolette, una persona fastidiosa perché sono molto pesante. Quindi la barriera linguistica non mi ha permesso e non ha permesso la comunicazione e farmi conoscere come uomo. Poi con l'arrivo del secondo anno con il mio amico Bamba, che ci aiutava molto e faceva da trade union tra inglesi e italiani, è andata molto meglio.
Yeah, so obviously there were some difficulties at the beginning because I'm a very exuberant guy, and I'm quite social. I like to speak, to talk to people and make new friends, but obviously the language barrier that there was at the beginning was something very, very limiting for me. And so what happened is that in the first year, my teammates mainly knew me just as the player. They didn't know the Bellusci outside the football pitch. And so this is something that maybe I regret a bit, because obviously as a player, I'm much more, I'm not as social and funny as I can be outside the pitch. And the second year, then my friend Bamba was really helpful, because he acted some kind as a link between the foreigners and the English players.
And when you arrived at Leeds, like you said, maybe because of your behaviours on and off the pitch, you had the nickname as the Warrior, maybe because of your aggressive playing style as well. And Massimo Cellino once said that he thought that you were one of the hardest players at Leeds, and if anyone got in a fight at a bar or whatever, they would all want you there to protect them. Did you feel that being an aggressive player was one of your best attributes when you played and helped you to perform when you were at Leeds?
Non la sapevo questa cosa, però no, fuori dal campo non sono la persona adatta, poi ho la fortuna o la sfortuna di trasformarmi nel campo da gioco, e questo credo che mi abbia fatto arrivare ad ottenere determinati livelli, però poi al di fuori del rettangolo verde sono il ragazzo più buono del mondo e sono totalmente un'altra persona.
So I actually didn't know this thing that President Cellino said, but I'm not the guy for a fight in the pub, because outside the pitch I'm like the calmest guy on earth. I'm really kind. I'm a totally different guy. When I'm on the pitch, I just transform, but it's because I try to put as much passion as I can, and maybe this quality is what made me as well achieve the results that I achieved.
And did you feel that, like, the aggression that you said on the pitch ever worked against you whilst you were at Leeds? Because there was a few stories during your time at the club that you might have been involved with a few training ground bust-ups and scuffles, one of which was most notably with one of the youth players at the time, Calvin Phillips.
Assolutamente bugia. Dopo un periodo bello che ho vissuto a Leeds, sono iniziate tutte queste voci contro di me, diffamatorie. Non riesco ancora a capire il perché. Molto probabilmente all'interno dello stesso centro sportivo c'erano persone che volevano danneggiarmi e far fuori, e alla fine ci sono riusciti con tante menzogne e tante bugie. Io ancora oggi ogni tanto su Messenger mi sento con Calvin. Io sono stato la persona che ha portato o perlomeno ha consigliato al presidente di far venire in prima squadra Calvin Phillips, che era nelle giovanili, così come Vieira, perché intravedevo le loro potenzialità importanti. Sono tutte bugie che sono state dette per diffamare.
So this is absolutely it's not true, it's a lie, because I started at Leeds by having a great time, but at a certain point I had a feeling that there were probably some people that wanted me out of the club, and in order to get me out of the club, they started to spread all these rumors and fake news. Because actually, I was the player that advised President Cellino to take Calvin Phillips and Vieira as well to the first team, because I saw good qualities in both players, and even nowadays I still speak to Calvin sometimes on Messenger. So this is absolutely fake news.
And just back to your first season at Leeds, and the side did rise up the table and away from the relegation zone in February and March. However, towards the back end of the season, the results began to turn again. And in April, the side lost 5 matches in a row, with the 5th coming away to Charlton on the penultimate away game of the season. Although Leeds did lose the game 2-1, the match is more remembered for the fact that yourself and 5 other Leeds players didn't travel to Charlton that day and pulled out of the side just 1 day before the game. Would you be able to tell us what happened that day? Because there's been a lot of claims from various people such as Sol Bamba and Neil Redfern about their opinions. However, no one's actually said their opinions from the people that have participated.
Sì, tutti gli altri 5 miei compagni erano realmente infortunati. Io non lo ero, avevo giocato tutte le partite ed ero un giocatore, credo, in quel momento importante per la squadra, e tutta la settimana ero negli 11 titolari per affrontare l'ultima gara, e l'ultimo giorno, senza dirmi niente, l'allenatore, senza darmi una motivazione, una spiegazione, non mi faceva giocare, sbagliando, reagendo d'impulso, reagendo istintivamente, qual è il mio carattere, decisi di non andare in trasferta.
So yeah, basically that day, at that time, all my other 5 teammates were actually injured. The only one not injured was me. But what happened is that at that time I was a crucial player for Leeds, because I used to play all games, and even the coach, he tried me in the starting 11 the whole week, and then all of a sudden the day before the game, without giving me a proper explanation, he just didn't let me. He just excluded me, and for that reason, I decided, probably even wrongly, I acted instinctively, and I decided not to go to Charlton with the team.
Ma io ero sicuro che Redfern, l'allenatore, e la moglie che lavorava all'interno del club, erano, dal mio punto di vista, erano loro due che facevano uscire queste notizie per farmi fuori.
But I'm quite sure that it was
Neil Redfern.
Redfern, yeah. And his wife as well. They used to work at the club. It was them that used to spread all these fake news in order to send me away, to get me out of the club.
So just say, for example, if Neil Redfern would have started you in that match at Charlton and would have put you in the starting 11, would you have been willing to play and fit enough to play that match?
Una domanda che mi offende. Ho fatto tutta la settimana disponibile. Io non sono partito il giorno prima di partire il ritiro per Charlton, non sono partito, avevo fatto l'allenamento. Ma quando ho fatto la formazione, che prima ero titolare e poi non mi ha fatto giocare, ho deciso di andare dentro lo spogliatoio e non partire. Sia per questo mio pensiero che avevo, che sono loro che volevano farmi fuori dal mondo Leeds, e sia perché è stata una mancanza di rispetto nei miei confronti, non tanto come giocatore ma come uomo. E poi questa domanda mi offende, perché io ogni volta che scendo in campo, al di là del dell'obiettivo che ci possa essere, anche se in quel momento non lottavamo né per retrocedere né per salire, ma io ho sempre dato tutto me stesso come se fosse il match più importante della mia vita.
So this question offends me a little bit, because obviously I'm a man that gives 200% all the time, and that week I actually trained the whole week until the very last training before going to Charlton, and I was in the starting 11, and then obviously the coach, probably because he wanted me out of the club, he for no reason he excluded me from the starting 11, and for that reason I decided to not to go. But obviously, as I repeat, I'm a player that gives 100% all the time. I never back up if they ask me. If I'm asked to play, I never back up. I'll always fight, and for that reason, it was him who excluded me for no reason.
On hindsight, do you think the action that you did that day, what you shouldn't have done it? Like, looking back at what you did, do you think it was the wrong decision to take?
Difficile rispondere. Col senno di poi credo che ho mancato di professionalità al mio lavoro, di professionalità ai miei compagni, e soprattutto non aver letto prima l'intento che avevano già da un po' di tempo Redfern e la moglie, e ci sono cascato con tutte le scarpe. Non so come fai a tradurre questa cosa. E ci sono cascato al giochetto e mi si è rivoltato tutto contro.
So no, it's well, it doesn't bother me because I basically said everything about that episode, but it's difficult to say because obviously on one side I didn't I let down my teammates, the fans. So on that side, it wasn't a good decision to make. But on the other side, I probably had to realize earlier what Redknapp and his wife wanted to do, which was kick me out of the club. And they won. So I fell for their game, and so I probably should have realized earlier what their intent was, which was to kick me out of the club.
And that brings an end to section 1 of episode 17.
Join us next week for section 2, where Giuseppe speaks about his last season at Leeds and how he took the abuse from supporters at the club after his reputation at the club decreased even further, and how he stormed out of training just 5 days after his last ever Leeds United appearance.
Understandably, when we released the news that we were speaking to Giuseppe for episode 17 of the LUFC Fans On podcast, it did cause quite a stir on social media, most of which was quite negative criticism about both us and Bellusci. However, we thought that it would be a change to have someone like him on the show, allowing him to answer questions that he had never commented on before, rather than to speak to him and glamorise and praise him about his time at the club. I hope today's episode has showed why we did want to speak to him and wanted him to come on our show, and we hope that you join us again next week for the second half of the interview.
Thanks for listening.